I didn't know it then, but that knock was going to change everything. It was early morning. The sun was barely up, and the street was still quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like the whole world is holding its breath. Then, suddenly, there it was. Sharp, loud knocking on my front door. Angry knocking. Not just a quick tap, but heavy, impatient, demanding. I opened the door slowly, heart pounding, and there she was. Mrs. Jenkins, our neighbor, the one everyone knew as the neighborhood watchdog. She had this way of always watching, always judging. Her eyes burned with a kind of fire I had never seen before. She didn't smile. She never smiled. Mrs. Jenkins had always been obsessed with control. If something didn't fit her idea of perfect, she fought to fix it. Sometimes that meant gossiping, sometimes it meant calling the police, but mostly, it meant making people uncomfortable until they gave up and left. And that day, she was angry. Not just annoyed or irritated. Angry. Because of the man who had just moved in next door, a man no one knew much about, except that he kept to himself, and that was enough for Mrs. Jenkins to think he was trouble. She stood there, staring at me with cold eyes and said, "That man has to go. He doesn't belong here." I didn't understand why she was so obsessed with pushing him out, but I would soon learn she had no idea who he really was. And what she started would lead to something none of us expected. Something bigger than all of us. The man Mrs. Jenkins wanted gone was named Mr. Cole. He moved into the house next to mine just a few weeks before the angry knock. From the very beginning, he was different. He never said much. In fact, he barely spoke to anyone. When I saw him, he was usually outside early in the morning, before sunrise. He wore simple clothes, nothing flashy or attention-grabbing. Quiet, serious, and private. The neighborhood buzzed with curiosity. People whispered about him, guessing all kinds of stories. Some said he was a retired military man. Others thought he might be hiding from something, or someone. Mrs. Jenkins didn't just whisper. She watched him every day, like a hawk. She'd peek from her window, then cross the street with a sharp look on her face whenever he stepped outside. I even caught her taking pictures of his house once. But Mr. Cole, he never complained. He kept his distance, never angry, never rude. If you greeted him, he nodded politely. That was it. It was strange to see someone so calm under all that suspicion. I began to wonder, was he really the problem, or was Mrs. Jenkins just afraid of what she didn't understand? The neighbors started to pick sides. Some thought we should leave him alone. Others agreed with Mrs. Jenkins, believing he was trouble waiting to happen. One day, Mrs. Jenkins told me quietly, "He's not who he says he is. I can feel it. There's something dangerous about him." I wanted to believe her was just being paranoid. But the way she said it sent a chill down my spine. Little did I know, Mrs. Jenkins' obsession with Mr. Cole was about to spiral out of control, and no one would be prepared for what came next. Mrs. Jenkins wasn't one to wait quietly when she felt something was wrong. A few days after that tense knock on my door, she started making moves to get rid of Mr. Cole. First, she complained to the homeowners association. She claimed he was breaking rules, things like parking his truck too close to the curb, or leaving trash bins out on the wrong days. Little things, but she made them sound serious. She sent emails filled with accusations. "This man is suspicious," she wrote. "Am worried about our safety." The association didn't act right away, but Mrs. Jenkins wasn't done. She went door to door, gathering signatures for a petition to evict Mr. Cole. Some neighbors joined her, but many were hesitant. They liked Mr. Cole's quiet nature and didn't want trouble. Still, Mrs. Jenkins pushed harder. She called the city inspectors, claiming violations on the property. She reported strange noises at night, even though no one else heard anything. Every time I saw her, she had that same angry look, like she was on a mission no one could stop. I tried talking to her once. "Maybe give him a chance," I said gently. She snapped back. "Chance? People like him don't deserve chances. They're hiding something. You'll see." I didn't want to believe it. Mr. Cole had never done anything wrong that I could see. But Mrs. Jenkins made it hard to ignore her warnings. Her obsession was growing, and it was spilling over into everyone's lives. That's when I started to worry. Not about Mr. Cole, but about what Mrs. Jenkins was capable of doing. She wasn't just angry anymore, she was dangerous. And the neighborhood was caught in the middle of her storm. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our quiet neighborhood grew thick, almost like a storm about to break. Mrs. Jenkins kept pushing. Her complaints became louder, her accusations sharper. She called the police on Mr. Cole more than once, saying he was acting suspiciously, even though he was never caught doing anything wrong. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors. Some were scared, others were just tired of the constant drama. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was Mr. Cole a criminal? Was he hiding a dark past? Or worse, was he some kind of spy? But through it all, Mr. Cole stayed calm. He never yelled, never lashed out. He answered questions politely, but never offered more than necessary. His quiet presence became even more mysterious. One evening I saw Mrs. Jenkins standing across the street, glaring at Mr. Cole's house. She held a clipboard, probably filled with notes and complaints. When I asked her if she would finally give up, she shook her head fiercely. "No," she said. "This man is not right. He's here for a reason, and it's not good." I couldn't help but wonder what she was so afraid of. What was this man hiding that made her so angry? The neighborhood felt divided. Some people wanted peace and to leave Mr. Cole alone. Others sided with Mrs. Jenkins, convinced that the quiet man next door was a threat. Then came the night when I heard strange noises outside, metal clinking, low voices. But when I looked out, no one was there. The fear started creeping in. I wondered if Mrs. Jenkins' warnings were real after all. But even in the face of suspicion and whispers, Mr. Cole remained calm, like he knew something no one else did. And I had a feeling that whatever was coming next would change everything forever. One afternoon, the tension reached its breaking point. Mrs. Jenkins, fed up with waiting for the neighborhood association to take action, decided to make things personal. She printed a letter, not just any letter, it was posted on every single front door in our neighborhood. The words were harsh and clear. Mr. Cole was unwanted, and everyone should know it. People like him don't belong here. The letter read, "We need to protect our homes, our families. He must leave." That same day, I saw her confront Mr. Cole right on the sidewalk. Her voice was loud, sharp, full of anger. "You've been hiding here long enough. Pack up and go," she yelled. But Mr. Cole didn't flinch. He looked at her quietly and said something that sent a chill down my spine. "You might regret this," he said softly, almost like a warning. Mrs. Jenkins scoffed and stormed off, but her words and actions had changed the whole neighborhood's mood. People were talking, some afraid, others confused. What did he mean? Was there truth to his warning, or was it just a bluff? For days afterward, there was a strange silence. Mrs. Jenkins seemed more determined than ever. But Mr. Cole, he remained calm, almost unshaken. I couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. Something none of us were ready for. And when it did, no one would forget the day Mrs. Jenkins decided to fight a man she thought she knew, only to find out she was completely wrong. After Mrs. Jenkins' loud confrontation, something strange happened. The neighborhood fell into an uneasy silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like everyone is waiting for something no one can name. Days passed. The sun rose and set, but nothing seemed to change. Mr. Cole went about his days as usual, still calm, still quiet. Mrs. Jenkins stayed inside more, her fiery energy simmering down, but her eyes still filled with that cold fire. People started to avoid her. Her harsh words had made some neighbors uncomfortable. The petty fights and complaints started to feel like a weight pressing on all of us. Then one morning, before anyone was awake, the quiet was shattered. It started as a low rumble. At first I thought it was thunder, but the sky was clear. The sound grew louder and louder. Engines, heavy and steady. I looked outside and saw dark shapes rolling down the street. Military trucks, rows of them, black and menacing, lined the street in front of Mr. Cole's house. Soldiers in uniform moved with purpose, their faces serious. Mrs. Jenkins burst out of her house, shouting questions, demanding answers. But the soldiers didn't respond. They only stood at attention and saluted Mr. Cole when he stepped outside. The whole neighborhood was silent. We watched, frozen, as the man we thought we knew showed us who he really was. In that moment, everything changed. The man Mrs. Jenkins tried so hard to evict wasn't just a quiet neighbor, he was something else entirely. And from that day on, no one ever doubted him again. The morning the military trucks arrived is etched in my memory forever. The rumble of engines woke the entire neighborhood long before dawn. I rushed to the window and saw them, big black trucks lined up like soldiers ready for battle. Men in uniform moved with precision, their faces stern and focused. Mrs. Jenkins came running outside, her anger replaced by confusion and fear. She shouted questions at the soldiers, demanding to know what was happening. But they didn't answer her. Instead, they stood silently, as if waiting for something or someone. Then from his house, Mr. Cole appeared, calm, collected, and standing tall like a man who belonged in a place far different from our quiet street. The soldiers immediately snapped to attention and saluted him. It was a moment that stunned us all. I could see the respect in their eyes, the kind of respect you don't give lightly. Mr. Cole nodded back at them, his expression serious but steady. That day, the truth was finally revealed. Mr. Cole wasn't just some quiet man who kept to himself. He was a high-ranking military officer, decorated and respected. He had been living undercover in our neighborhood, on a sensitive assignment that required absolute secrecy. The man Mrs. Jenkins had tried to force out was actually protecting us. His quiet life was a cover for something much bigger, a mission that kept our country safe. As he spoke to the soldiers, I saw the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This wasn't just a job for him, it was a calling. Mrs. Jenkins stood frozen, her face pale. All her accusations, her anger, they seemed so small and foolish now. The neighbors gathered, whispering in disbelief. Some felt ashamed, others relieved. Mr. Cole finally turned to us and spoke, his voice calm but firm. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted to live quietly, to be just another neighbor, but now you know who I am, and what I'm doing. I hope you understand. That moment changed everything. We saw him not as a stranger, but as a hero. And Mrs. Jenkins, well, she had to face the truth of her own mistakes. For the first time, the neighborhood was united, not by gossip or fear, but by respect and gratitude. After the soldiers and Mr. Cole stood there for a moment, the neighborhood slowly gathered around, trying to understand what was happening. Mr. Cole finally spoke to us, not as a stranger, but as someone who wanted us to know the truth. He told us about his work, about the secret mission that had brought him here. He was part of a special unit, working to protect the country from threats no one else knew about. His quiet life was part of that mission. He needed to stay invisible, to watch without being watched. He explained that the trucks, the soldiers, they were part of a larger operation. He couldn't share all the details, but what he could say was enough to make us realize how wrong we had been to judge him. Mrs. Jenkins stood off to the side, her face a mix of shock and shame. She looked down, unable to meet anyone's eyes. I never meant to cause trouble, she finally said quietly. I was scared. I thought I was protecting everyone. Mr. Cole nodded. Fear can make people do strange things. But it's important to remember to listen, to try to understand before judging. The neighbors began to talk, some apologizing to Mr. Cole, others just trying to process what they'd learned. It was clear that our community had made a mistake, one that could have cost us all dearly. I looked at Mr. Cole and felt a deep respect for the man who had lived among us, quietly carrying a burden none of us could see. Mrs. Jenkins' obsession had blinded her to the truth. Her fear had made her push a hero out of the neighborhood. From that day forward, things changed. The whispers stopped, the suspicion faded, and Mr. Cole became a part of our community, not as a stranger, but as someone we were proud to call neighbor. It was a powerful lesson for all of us, about trust, respect, and the dangers of jumping to conclusions. After the truth came out, things between Mrs. Jenkins and Mr. Cole changed. The neighborhood had learned a hard lesson, and Mrs. Jenkins realized just how wrong she had been. She tried to apologize to Mr. Cole, but it wasn't easy. The anger and suspicion she had poured into trying to push him out had left scars, not just between them, but across the whole street. Mr. Cole accepted her apology quietly, but with a calm warning in his voice. "Some things aren't what they seem," he said. "And judging without knowing the whole story can cause a lot of damage." Mrs. Jenkins grew quieter after that. She no longer had the fiery energy she once used to stir up trouble. Instead, she spent more time alone, reflecting on what her fear had caused. The neighborhood slowly returned to normal. People stopped whispering and started talking again, not about fear or suspicion, but about respect and understanding. Mr. Cole stayed for a while longer, but eventually his mission called him away. When he moved out, the whole neighborhood felt the loss, but also a deep sense of gratitude. He had been more than just a neighbor. He had been a silent protector, a reminder that sometimes the people we fear most are the ones watching out for us. And Mrs. Jenkins, she never forgot the lesson she learned that day. Her desire for control had almost cost us everything. From then on, the community was more careful, with their words, their judgments, and their hearts. Because sometimes the biggest surprises come from the quietest places. Looking back, I realize how easy it is to judge someone based on fear and assumptions. We saw a quiet man, and immediately thought the worst. Mrs. Jenkins, caught in her own worries, let suspicion take over, and nearly pushed out someone who was actually protecting all of us. It's a lesson about humility, about the danger of jumping to conclusions, without knowing the full story. We all want to feel safe, but sometimes that safety comes from places we least expect. Mr. Cole taught us that true strength often hides behind silence, that heroes don't always wear uniforms openly, and sometimes they live quietly among us, carrying burdens we can't see. And Mrs. Jenkins, her story reminds us how fear can cloud judgment, but also how important it is to learn, to grow, and to admit when we're wrong. This neighborhood story isn't just about one man or one angry neighbor. It's about all of us, how we treat each other, how we listen, and how we choose to see the people around us. Because beneath the surface, everyone has a story worth understanding. If this story made you think twice about judging others, or if it gave you chills, please like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us to look deeper and be kinder. And share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. You never know who's living next door, or the battles they quietly face. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and be kind.